Hello, welcome back to GameSpot's continuing coverage of E3 2014. You're watching the GameSpot stage. My name is Danny O'Dwyer. We swapped out the American dude for the Irish dude. I'm going to keep on showing you sweet games. There's loads of stuff coming up. H1Z1, Phoenix Rage, Dub Wars, loads. But right now I'm joined by Dave Georgeson from SOE, my friend, Director of Development for EverQuest. EverQuest Next, I should say. But we're here to talk about Landmark, which is a kind of a crazy project that's, I guess, it's running before we get to play EverQuest Next, but it's going to continue on once it's released as well. This is almost like some sort of crowdfunding for ideas, for creating your world.
It started out like originally we were designing EverQuest Next, and we realized we were making such crazy, cool, new design kind of frontier stuff that we had to make specialty tools, and we thought, well, wouldn't it be cool if we gave the tools to the players ahead of time so that they could actually help us make the world? And that kind of snowballed, and it kept getting bigger and bigger, and now Landmark is its own entertainment experience. It's a full-on MMO and growing every day, but it's also pioneering the systems that we'll use in EverQuest Next for the new NORATH, and the players are collaborating with us to determine what EverQuest Next is like. At the same time, that it's an entertaining, fun experience and a game of its own.
So Landmark, is it fair to say that EverQuest Next, much like EQ, will be a world that has a relative amount of persistence over what that world is, where buildings are and where cities are, and Landmark is almost like the construction phase of that. Maybe I'm being reductive.
Well, yes and no. First of all, EverQuest Next is not static at all. So cities could be destroyed or move or like be founded by the players, all kinds of different things. So the worlds are constantly changing. And in fact, the worlds deviate over time so that each individual world develops its own personality and what's going on with by whatever the players decided. Landmark, by its own nature, is a giant sandbox where the players can literally do anything without us guiding them. They come up with science fiction stuff, like there's a guy that's got a fleet that's sailing around the world. There's all kinds of stuff that's going on, and the players determine their own destinies, and we provide them the mechanisms that we use to build EverQuest Next. So like the PvP systems, the dungeon mastering stuff for setting up scenarios and story arcs, all that stuff, the AI editing tools, all of that stuff is coming to Landmark so that they can literally build whatever is in their imaginations, and everybody else that's playing can experience it.
And so how are you using it as a development studio? Are you cherry picking parts that you like, be it lore or a particular quest or a particular building, or is it more trying to engage with the community before the game comes out and get them ready for EverQuest Next once it's out?
Well, there are people that play, a lot of people that play Landmark that really are cool with just playing Landmark.
Yeah.
Like they're not necessarily looking forward to EverQuest Next, but there are a certain percentage of them that are really fired up about helping build EverQuest Next. And so when we engage with those people, we do things like right now we're doing a Dark Elf workshop. We gave them all of our concept art and our art Bible for what we're doing with Dark Elves,
awesome.
and they're just riffing on it. They're building all this crazy stuff and saying, wouldn't this be cooler? And our art director and our creative director is working with these people on a regular basis, like every day. We have a live stream later today where they're talking back and forth with the players, and we're changing our art Bible to match what the players have decided that they want, and that is shaping what NORATH will become. So that's all part of what Landmark can do, but at the same time, like recently we had a Landmark of Landmarks competition. And the winners of that competition, those structures that they created will show up at the player hubs when new players begin. And the first thing a new player sees is this wonderful, amazing construct that a player made with a plaque at the bottom with that guy's name, when he won it, and what contest it was. And we do all these snapshots of really cool stuff as we go forward, so there's like time slices of the development of Landmark as we go.
I've got a bunch of questions for Dave myself, but if you have any, at Danny O'Dwyer on Twitter, or send me a message in the chat at Danny O'Dwyer there, and I'll make sure I send them over to Dave here. Okay, I've got a question about I guess the MMO genre. EQ is the forefather of so much that we've seen.
Yeah.
In a post World of Warcraft world, there have been very few games that have managed to really do something new with the genre, or maybe that's reductive for things like Guild Wars, but nothing has had that moment that wowed it back in 05.
Right.
Do you think this type of the amount of personal customization on building on your own land, of moving to cities, do you think that EverQuest Next, this is the new frontier of what MMOs are?
Well, clearly we do. Otherwise, what the hell are we doing?
But you seem to be deep diving in this direction.
It's true. Well, I mean, we've run a lot of theme park MMOs at SOE. I mean, a lot of them, probably more than anybody else in the world.
Yeah.
And we kind of understand that the static theme park worlds that we have been building Well, they're not succeeding anymore. There hasn't been a big hit in that line for a long time. So if you take it as a given that it's really difficult to succeed with a model like that, you really need to do something different. And if we're going to do something different, well, why not do the stuff that we've always wanted to do by letting the players collaborate with us and make a difference and be dynamic and have the whole world be destroyable and all of that stuff that we've been talking about for the last year since the last SOE Live. And we've been doing it. I mean, the world is destructible. We're going to be able to demo the emergent AI in another month or so. We've got, the caves go all the way down to the core of the world. All the stuff we said we were going to do is happening, and it's getting cooler as it goes.
So the caves and the oceans you mentioned before we started, that's just been added in as well recently, is that right?
Yeah, we just, this Monday, we debuted the caves, which are these huge underground systems where you can go through and explore them. There's occasional earthquakes that reshuffle all the caverns.
Awesome.
There's treasure chests where you can only get certain items that they're only found deep down underneath the ground. And then later, as we add more combat and danger, that's will be where like monsters start to reside, and it becomes dangerous and creepy. And that's, if you don't mind me talking about it a little bit, the economy of the game depends upon the different groups of players wanting to get together.
Okay.
So builders need like the PvP and the dungeon mastering guys so that they have an audience for the pieces that they're building. And these guys don't necessarily want to build a house or a castle, so they work with the builders. And the adrenaline seekers that want to go down into the caves need the crafters to make the items and stuff that they use, and the crafters need the adrenaline seekers to find the bits that they need to make stuff with. So it's all this interactivity, and that's what a good MMO is all about.
I guess on the other side of this is as creators, you're handing the tools over to your users, and their imagination can run completely wild, perhaps in ways that you might not necessarily desire. Like, how do you stop this turning into a Second Life, for instance, where there are no rules, and by virtue of that, there is no tone that sort of exists throughout the world?
Well, I mean, Landmark is set up in such a way that it kind of protects itself. Well, let's just say that we rely on thin-skinned players.
yeah, I guess.
There's a lot of people that will report things that they don't like seeing, and then our CS system is set up in such a way that the people that report accurately go right to the top of the CS queue, and the people that cry wolf a lot, they go to the bottom, so that we don't have to deal with those reports. And it's really easy for us to turn claims invisible and take care of issues like that. But really, all we're really worried about is, graphic nudity, that sort of thing, and IP violations. Almost everything else is good to go. And so people are building all these crazy sci-fi and fantasy and modern build-outs, like I said, fleets, all kinds of crazy stuff. And now that you can go underwater, I pretty much expect to see sea labs and submarines any day.
Excellent. What other type of stuff? I'm interested as to what other interesting things have you seen users create over the past couple of months?
Oh, well, I mean, the Landmarks and Landmark competition was amazing, the kind of stuff that they did. But really, to me, it's the stuff that people do with those things that's really intriguing to me. Like, there's a couple of groups, like the Angel Bay and Lay Spring Academy groups. Like, we don't even have guild structures in the game yet, and they're already doing this on the side. And what they did was they realized that there were a lot of people that were kind of bouncing off the game because they didn't understand how to use the tools in a cool way.
Okay.
So they self-organized in order to be able to teach people and attract new people to because they wanted more people. Like, these games are all about bragging, and what's a better way to brag than to teach somebody how to do something cool? And so they're doing it naturally, and the fleet that moves around and they do Twitch streams, this fleet picks up all its claims and moves to new locations, and then the boats show up, like the fleet arrives, and they do these Twitch streams, and then the fleet moves on to another location. Stuff like that is really cool, and it's just the tip of the iceberg for what players can do later on.
How much of the audience for EverQuest Next do you think is guys and girls who used to play EQ back in the day? Or like I say back in the day, like it's an old game. Like EverQuest has existed like non-stop until
it's
this point.
Still going strong.
Yeah. So, like, but how many people
EverQuest 2, EverQuest? Yeah, like I'm branded, man. I'm not like I run EverQuest, EverQuest 2, Landmark, and EverQuest Next.
Oh wow.
And,
really?
yeah. So like. That's all I do with my life. And these guys are really good, EverQuest and EverQuest 2. We did an analysis of the numbers, and we figured out that about a third of the people that play Landmark play EverQuest and EverQuest 2. So they're a very representative group inside the game, but they're not the majority.
Because that would be a worry, perhaps, if you were just preaching to the choir.
That would be a worry. That would be a worry, but we're not experiencing that. And when we debuted on Steam, our numbers shot way up, and we've been having a good old time.
So there's lots of people in the chat asking how it's available at the moment. So it's alpha technically.
Closed beta.
Oh, it's closed beta. Okay.
Yeah, so you can get it from us directly from SOE. or you can go to Steam and be able to download it from there. And there's different founders packs that you can get into. Later on, when we go open beta, this will be a fully free-to-play game.
Cool.
But right now, we kind of want the people that are really interested in the game to show up.
To be engaged, yeah, fair enough. EverQuest Next, am I right in saying that it's also coming out on PlayStation 4?
It has been announced by our boss, yes.
Okay, all right. Landmark is purely PC at the moment, though, is that
Currently.
correct? Okay, yeah. Currently.
Well, I mean, I'd love for it to be on as many platforms as it can
Yeah.
be, but we're going to make the PC game first,
Yeah.
and then we'll talk about other platforms.
Cool. Keith, I almost don't want to ask these questions because what I like about Landmark so much is the creation of it. But just to get back into some other, known quantities with MMOs, can you talk a bit about, in Landmark specifically, do you guys have PvP? Do you have any questing stuff at the moment, or is it all about this sort of emergent creation?
Well, right now, if you play Landmark right now, we're full of satisfying builders, explorers, and crafters. The next step is to start bringing in combat, and the first step of combat really is PvP. Because if we get that player-to-player interaction and that fun factor down, adding AI and pathing and stuff to that is a natural. That's pretty easy. So one of the things we're going to start talking about is claim-based PvP, where you can actually set up rules and do cool stuff on your own claim. But we're going to hold back on details on that for a little bit because, to be honest, we got a lot of discussions going internally, and we want to make sure we nail it all down before we start telling people about it.
I guess if you've got you guys seem to have a pretty open design
Really?
philosophy. So
I mean, we tell them everything. We told them, like early on in Alpha, we gave them the whole business plan for what we were going to charge for and what we weren't going to charge for.
Really?
Yeah, everything. Like, we're as open as you can be. Like, we tell them when people are sick on the team so that they know that the feature's been delayed by a couple of days.
Wow.
It's like this. It's like we got 100,000 people that live just down the hall from us.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. Like, I've never developed a game like this. I don't know of anybody that's developed a game like this. And it's crazy because it's open development in the public light of day, and we have to be entertaining our players all the time while we're doing it. And it's a song and dance that's stupidly fun to do.
Well,
It's amazing.
If you're making a game that is inevitably about fostering community,
Yeah.
to be able to do that within the development itself must be very satisfying.
It's fantastic. And the fact that we have a game that's based around creativity means that the people that are in our community are just solidly cool. Like, they're helping each other, they're giving each other tips, investigating things. Hell, they're doing stuff with the tools we didn't know you could do. And that's just the tip of the iceberg with the building stuff.
Yeah.
When we get to AI editing and these PvP tools and all that other stuff, we expect to be floored.
Excellent.
And as we go back and forth with the players, that's how we'll decide what EverQuest Next's final form is.
Yeah.
We know what EverQuest Next should be, but we also know that the players are going to teach us a lot about our own game, and we want that to be the best product it can be. So, Landmark.
Awesome. David Georgeson, absolute pleasure meeting you, sir. Best of
Thank
luck
you.
with Landmark and with EverQuest Next as well. I can't wait to see more of it.
Thanks for your
Thanks for
time.
having us on.